Greetings and salutations, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody's Thanksgiving was blessed and full of joy, and you guys are nice and full and ready to be terrified but entertained. Before that, a couple links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that, they just don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything that you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. Now, I've definitely taken enough of your time, everyone. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? The first part of today's upload is going to be in regards or about the unfortunate and untimely attack on Donald Allen. There has been some new information released, and just like the news always does, they make it a little sketchy. A northeastern Jackson County man was found dead Wednesday morning, about 6 miles from his home. Investigators say he was attacked by an animal. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office received a phone call of a man lying next to the roadway on Kirkland Road. Investigators state 65-year-old Donald Ray Allen was found dead. They believe he was attacked by one or more domesticated dogs and died of blood loss. When I say domesticated, I'm not talking about coyote. Sheriff Lewis Roberts III, Jackson County Sheriff's Office states. That's one of the things we are looking at, collecting evidence forensically that can tell us or tell the experts for sure if we have a particular breed of dog or if it was wild. The Boscombe, Florida native was dropped off at the home on Kirkland Road around 10 p.m. Tuesday night and left on foot. Investigators say they are not sure who dropped him off. We asked the public if they have seen any dogs that are aggressive, if you are either riding a bicycle or four-wheeler or walking, if any dogs in this particular area from the 6500 block of Kirkland Road to Northeast Jackson County, please let us know. Sheriff Roberts said he is unsure of what set the dogs off. We certainly want to caution people being in that area where there are aggressive dogs, and we have seen this happen other places, and we certainly don't want to see it happen here. Sheriff Roberts then states, he said they have had cases of dog bites before, but nothing like this. It's not a common thing, not to this extent, not causing the death. Sheriff Roberts asks for the community to take precautions. This is not something to be taken lightly. We have already seen the death of one individual, and we certainly would like people to be cautious and to let them know we are taking this very seriously. We're working close with animal control. We are working with the medical examiner's office and the University of Florida, the doctors there, to help us determine what type of animal we are looking for. Sheriff Roberts said to the Houston County Sheriff's Office has an active drone division that will be used in the investigation. Nighttime flying will be conducted to see if it gives them any further clues. We certainly hate it for this gentleman and his family, but we are going to work diligently to try to resolve and find the dog or dogs responsible. Animal control has set traps out. Now, a little bit more information than the first couple that were released the day of the attack. Now, this one is got an interview with his son in it. Very interesting. Fatal dog attack victim. Son seeks answers. Police search for canine traveling in packs. A pack of dogs that attacked and killed a Jackson County man still haven't been captured as investigators gather more evidence and the victim's son seeks closure. Donald Allen, 65, attended his daughter's funeral in Baton Rouge 2 weeks before he was fatally attacked in Jackson. Donald Allen was last seen alive walking along a dirt road about 5 miles away from his Boscombe home at around 10 p.m. Last Tuesday, according to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, police say a neighbor's girlfriend alerted authorities after she found Allen's corpse lying in the road at 7 a.m. the next day. Investigators are still working to piece together what happened during the 9 hours in between. They've ruled out the possibility that Allen was a victim of a coyote attack based on the tracks at the scene and the shape of the bite marks on the body. But they're not sure if he was attacked by a pack of stray dogs or someone's pets. I'm going to stop you right there. A coyote and a domesticated dog, they are very similar in the shape, design, the mouth structure, the head structure. They're almost identical to a husky. So now we're ruling that out, that it was a coyote, but we're still looking into dogs. Well, why? Why? Why rule anything out at this point, you know? Keep it all on the table. Sorry, back to the... How was my dad not able to get help? He was right in front of someone's house and no one heard him, said Allen's 25-year-old son, Donald Chase Allen. There are still a lot of unanswered questions in regards to how he even got there and what led him to that compromised position. Allen says his father worked construction and could have gotten a ride home from one of his co-workers, but investigators say they still don't know who dropped Allen off on Kirkland Road, or why they left him 5 miles from his home after dark. They also don't know what could have provoked the attack. I'm not ruling any dog out in that area right now, said William Crisp, investigator at Jackson County Sheriff's Office. It was probably a pack effort based on the injuries to the body and the tracks at the scene. It appeared to have been more than one. Crisp is the lead detective on this case. Well, you know, just based off the first paragraph in this, Detective Crisp sounds like he's got his head up his ass. I'm going to go through that area and make contact with everybody that I can. Tell has a dog in their yard and see if I can get some swabs from the dog and compare it to the swabs and the hair samples we took off the clothing of the victim. Crisp says police believe the likeliest scenario is that the dogs that attacked Allen are ownerless and still roaming. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is urging residents who spot this pack of wild dogs to call animal control. A lady riding a four-wheeler in that same area saw a group of 6 dogs that she didn't recognize, Crisp said. I've got other photographs of a pack of 7 or 8 dogs that are seen coming through a hunter's property where he had a tree stand and a deer feeder up, and they were caught on a game camera. He says animal control officers have set up traps in the area last week, but they haven't caught any dogs as of Monday. Police have set DNA swabs to bite marks on Donald Allen's body and hair samples from his clothes to the lab at the University of Florida. They expect it'll take 2 weeks at the earliest for those results to come back. Allen's son, Donald Chase Allen, says his family won't have closure until the dogs responsible have been captured and put down. The last word we said to each other was, I love you too, and we hugged before we went our separate ways, Allen says. That was just a few days ago, and it just seems like nothing in the world could have prepared me or even him. No one expects to die like that. No one plans for it. And there's no way to plan it. Alan's family has started a GoFundMe page to raise money for his funeral expenses. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is discouraging residents from walking alone at night, particularly in the Boscombe area. So this poor guy and his son just buried his daughter, the guy's son's sister, 2 weeks prior to this. And he works construction. Probably, needed to just, I'm speculating here. Probably got a ride, and maybe the person who dropped him off was either late, couldn't go that far, didn't want to go that far. Who knows? That's irrelevant. Why are we looking for the person? Why are we wasting time looking for the person who dropped him off? It wasn't their dog. He was found 5 to 6 miles away from where he was dropped off. And how the hell do you know he was dropped off anyway? Think about that. How do we know he got dropped off? What is the importance of that if he was found 5 to 6 miles away, tore up by something that we don't know of? But was not a coyote, we can rule that out. But we're not ruling out dogs. Come on, Detective Crispy. Critter. Sorry, I'm not laughing at... This is just, it's terrible. It's the media cover-up, police, government bullshit cover-up. And this poor guy's family isn't going to know it because there were key words in that article that said they emphasized on 2 weeks. It may take 2 weeks. Well, you know what's going to happen in 2 weeks? Some other bullshit, either political or some war or something. These guys are praying for it. The media and the G-men are praying for this to get swept under the rug very easily. And that's what'll happen. And for all those that say, hey, what does Victor have to say? Well, Victor was the one that told me about this literally an hour or two after it happened. And then I saw it probably 6 hours later. Because I went and looked it up and it wasn't there. And then 6 hours later, bam, newsfeed. There's also things he can't tell me. So it's just frustrating. Because honestly, a year to the day, there was a tragic mauling of a woman in Texas. And they still don't know what killed her. They think it could have been feral hog, or it could have been a dog attack, or it could have been this. Well, what did it? So get off your lazy asses and tell us so we as American citizens can stand up, protect ourselves. Gonna get political real quick. Maybe there's a reason why the Democrats are trying to take our Second Amendment away. And just maybe it's to not be able to protect ourselves from these things. I don't know. I hate talking politics, but just had to throw that in. All right, let's move on. Today's first encounter, Carroll County, Arkansas. I've been playing and living at an opera festival 7 miles or so west of Eureka Springs in the Ozark Mountains. One night after a run-out performance in Missouri, several of us were driving back to the festival site. We were on Highway 62 between Beaver Lake and Eureka Springs. It was right after midnight when our car lights illuminated someone or something standing off to the right side of the road. It raised its hands and covered its face, I assume, due to the car lights. We saw no clothes on it, and it appeared to be covered in brownish, dark hair. What we saw did not really register at first. We all thought it was very strange that someone would be out here naked at this time of the night. None of us thought it was a bear because we saw hands. Also, I had seen a bear in that part of Arkansas, and it did not resemble a bear. We didn't stop or turn around because we were all a little freaked out. I later realized that this thing had been standing on a small slope. It must have been 7 to 8 feet tall. It wasn't thick or bulky, but it appeared to be thin in comparison to its height. When I saw what I did, my first reaction was, who's stupid enough to be out here at this time of the night? They'll get run over. Then I realized it was hair-covered and tall, and definitely not a man. Today's second encounter, Saline, Arkansas. We had just moved into our home here, and the dare were always coming up to our back fence and causing these little wimp dogs of mine to go into cardiac arrest, especially at night when I was trying to go to sleep. So I was in the habit of taking a small rifle and shooting around into the trees and frighten the deer away and shut the dogs up. One night I decided to take my single shot break over 410 into the woods on the trail and really scare them away. So, carrying a flashlight, the gun broke open, 1 round loaded. 2 more rounds, I went off into the woods. About 30 yards into the woods, I heard movement to my right at about 1 o'clock. Shining my light at the brush, I saw the thing standing, shock still. I could tell it was 7 feet tall, and it was half again as broad across the shoulders as me. I'm 6'1" and weigh about 300 pounds, so I am not a little fella by any means. But I was next to this thing. It had brownish, orange, long fur over what I could see of its body, and its face was dark. My light reflected in its eyes just like an animal. At that time it grunted and made a move towards me. The first thing I did was close the gun, aim, and fire. I know I didn't miss because it was only about 35 feet away from me and I saw fur fly. It yelled and began to move towards me more. And I began to walk backwards, reloading the gun, never taking the light off it. I fired again, not missing, and it really started to move on me. So I did this one more time, this time firing one-handed. I turned and ran from the woods towards my home. My wife was on the back porch when I came out of the woods, and I yelled for her to get my 8mm rifle. She met me with it. I spun around, fully expecting to see this thing on me. It was not there. I could hear it running through the woods, which is not easy with all of the undergrowth there. It let out a long, loud yell that reminded me of sounds you might hear at the primate house at the zoo. Today's third encounter, Rapids Parish, Louisiana. My wife, girlfriend at the time, and I were driving back to Dallas from New Orleans. We had started out at around 9 p.m. I was driving my 91 Isuzu Amigo. We had the top rolled up because it was really nice outside. We'd been traveling between 2.5 to 3 hours at 75 miles an hour. We were approaching Alexandria. At this point, we were on a unlit 2-lane highway. On both sides of the road, there were wooded, swampy areas 25 to 30 feet from the edge of the road. As we were driving, we saw a figure off to our right in the headlights. We both saw it as we passed and exclaimed simultaneously, "Did you just see that?" We both agreed that we had, and I asked her, "What do you think we saw?" She said it looked like a werewolf to me. I wanted to immediately turn around and go back. She did not, as we were in an open convertible. There was a friend of ours asleep in the back seat who slept through the entire incident. As we passed it, it never seemed to detect our presence. At least, that's the way it seemed, because it never turned or even flinched as we went by. We saw the backside of the creature as it was traveling in the same direction that we were. We estimated its height to be at least 7 feet. It was covered with hair, and in the illumination of my headlights it appeared to be gray in color. It was walking, and it was slumped over in the front. Today's next encounter. It was about 2 in the morning. I woke up to go to the bathroom. When I woke up, I happened to look toward the window. saw this huge figure standing on our front deck. There was a security light outside, so it made it more visible to see. I knew that it was not a person. My dad's 6'3", and that thing was much taller and more broad-shouldered. I didn't see its actual body, just the outline, mostly through the window. All I know is it was huge, and I was too scared to walk to the window and look out. I just lied down on a pallet that I had made earlier that night while watching movies. I've noticed strange events occurring around our property, such as our ducks had ended up dead, heads have been completely torn off. And on the way to the pond in the pasture was a dead cow with most of its insides torn out. Now, we did smell a rotten odor, but we brushed it off for it being water moccasins because they have a terrible smell when nearby. And at the time, we didn't think anything of it. We also raised horses, but nothing really disturbed them. I was about 7 when this happened, so I was terribly frightened. A few days after the event, I was out back, and I looked in the field and saw something large walking on 2 legs. I would guess about 100 meters away. I know it was way too large to be any kind of human. Ever since then, I've been too scared to go out into the country at night anymore. Today's 5th encounter. I was driving home from Windham. It was after midnight. I had the high beams on, as you never meet another car at night. I saw a dark-colored upright figure, like a big man, run across the road. The figure was at the edge of my headlights, so I didn't really get a clear look at it. It ran from west to east. I was traveling pretty fast, so I reached where it had crossed within a second or two, and it was gone. It had disappeared into a cluster of cedar trees that were along the fence line. I've only told a couple of people about this. At the time, I didn't think anything about it, or possibly being a cryptid, but I know they've been seen around this area. I have also heard screams in the area at night, but I believed them to be panthers or mountain lions. I'm really not sure what's going on. Tonight's final encounter. This occurred in 1992 when I was a senior in high school. I was cruising around at night in a small area where people used to go four-wheeling. Though it is now a developed area, this is in East Cheyenne, between an area known as Sun Valley and Lincoln Valley Auto Salvage. I was driving in an easterly direction on a dirt road and saw some kind of wolf-like creature in my headlights, approximately 60 yards in front of me. My first thought was coyote, but it was not. It seriously looked like a werewolf from the movies. I only saw it for a few seconds. The thing glanced halfway at me, and my lights reflected on their eyes, which were a bright golden glow, and it ran off over a hill. Honestly, it scared the crap out of me. I rolled up both windows and locked my doors and started turning my truck to see if I could catch it in my headlights again. I didn't see it again, and I wasn't about to go any further. Like I said, I was scared but curious. I ended up turning around to the nearest neighborhood by a couple streetlights, unlocked my door and bailed out and immediately scrambled to the ground looking under my truck. Much like bailing off your bed as a kid, leaping halfway across the room and jumping down to look under your bed just to prove that there was nothing there. I still laugh about it to this day. I had to look crazy to anyone in that neighborhood who had seen me. So to best describe what I saw was much like a standing wolf. But it was like a movie werewolf. If it stood up completely straight, it would have been 6 feet tall or taller. It wasn't completely covered with hair, if any at all. I remember it had a dog-like face with the cheek tufts and shorter, pointy ears, as well as a snout like a dog. Its arms were like an orangutan, though, and its hind legs were shorter than a human. Like I said, just like a movie werewolf, except it wasn't all huge in the shoulders and neck like you see in most of the films. Alright guys, there is your Thanksgiving encounters. I hope that you guys liked them as much as I did. And let me reiterate how friggin' important it is that we, as a community, work together and put the puzzle pieces where they belong. We have 5 unsolved animal attacks within 1 year, guys. 1 year. That's nuts. That is just plain nuts. I don't know. Have a great night, guys. Happy Thanksgiving again.